It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. If this is the first time you're listening to our show, please visit oppermanreport.com and check out our members section where there's exclusive content and exclusive shows that you won't hear anywhere else. Today we have a special returning guest, George Christie, who is the former president of the Hells Angels Ventura County chapter. He's been on our show before. He's a very popular guest. The time went so fast, and he's nice enough to come back. George is currently starring on the History Channel. It's called Outlaw Chronicles, Hells Angels, and also, too, he has his own consulting business for felony prison consultants, called felonyprisonconsultants.com, and we got into that the last time too. And what you can do is, if you got a case coming up, you got a problem, you can contact felonyconsultants.com, and George Christie can, because of his experience of dealing with the law enforcement and the courts, can kind of walk you through all that and try and get you out of it as painlessly as possible, even if you do have to go to prison. Okay, am I pretty much right about that, George?
You're absolutely right, and I appreciate you having me back.
No, everybody loves you, man. And like I said, I was talking to...
Well, not everybody.
Not everybody, yeah. That's so true. Well, I can say the same thing. Everybody loves me either. Okay, but at least we get along, right? So there's one less person to worry about.
That's true.
I wanted to invite you back because of your experience with the Hells Angels all throughout the 60s and the 70s and 80s in California. Your inside knowledge about the concert at Altamont with the Rolling Stones.
Well, I do have a lot of inside knowledge, but I want to make one thing perfectly clear, that I was not at Altamont. And I did have a first-hand insight into Altamont through one of my good friends, Paul Hibbets, known as Animal in the Hells Angels. He was actually the Hells Angel member running around the stage, on the stage, with the Animal hat on. I don't know if it was a coyote or whatever type of hat it was, but Animal and I went to high school together, so we had a long relationship, not only before the Hells Angels, but in the Hells Angels as well.
Well, now let me ask you this, because you say you weren't there, all right? But there's a picture of a guy on the stage staring down Mick Jagger that looks a lot like you. Now, you must have heard that before.
Well, I have heard that, and there's one of these internet movements out there to get me to admit that I was at Altamont. They say that is me, and I won't admit that I was there. But, I'll let the people that are investigating that, come to their own conclusions. I'm stating for the record I wasn't there. But, somehow if they can disprove me, maybe I had a lapse of memory at that particular point in time. It was the 60s.
Okay. Now, I know you were a concert promoter yourself.
Correct.
Well, give us an idea. What was your concert promoting career like?
Well, I promoted concerts in the mid-'80s all the way up until, a few years ago. And in the mid-'80s, I started with Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead. Gave me my first break as a concert promoter. And from there, I built a business up with, a lot of different clients, acts, whatever you want to call them. Waylon Jennings, Johnny Paycheck, Ricky Nelson, Doug Kershaw, Long Beach Dub All-Stars, David Crosby, just many, many, many different concerts over the years. And, this ties back into Altamont in a sense because Rock Scully, who was the Grateful Dead manager on and off for years and also the manager for the Jerry Garcia band, is the one that initially suggested when the concert was being put together back in the late 60s that the Hells Angels should do security.
Now, were you aware of those discussions that the Angels were going to get involved in this concert? Beforehand?
Well, there was some talk throughout the, outlaw bike culture that there was a big concert coming up. A lot of guys made their way up there, and, it was stated that the Hells Angels would do the security for it. And what you have to understand is people in the club had relationships with the bands that were going to perform there. So when they were deciding how to put the concert together, Rock Scully suggested, use the club members. They come to all of our gigs. They come backstage. They're good guys to keep everybody under control. But, you can see that things escalated, and ultimately, somebody was stabbed, and, he ultimately died.
So now, if you didn't go there, were other members of your chapter, the Ventura chapter, were they up there?
The Ventura chapter was non-existent at the time. I initially got in the club in Los Angeles in the 70s, and then in the late 70s, I grabbed a handful of guys in Animal, who I mentioned earlier, being one of them. We started the Ventura Hells Angels in 1978. But prior to that, I was in Los Angeles and spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, a lot of time up in Daly City and Richmond and San Francisco and whatnot.
Okay, then if you didn't go to Altamont, what were you doing that weekend?
That weekend?
Yeah.
Well, God only knows. Like I said, it was the 60s.
Okay. Now, the guy on stage that a lot of people claim is you, do you know who he is?
I do, but his name escapes me.
Okay. All right. But so these like well-known guys.
And not conveniently. His name really doesn't escape.
Listen, you never lied to me before, okay? So I'm taking your word for it.
That's right.
Okay. So far, we're good. Now, you've seen the movie Gimme Shelter?
I have.
Okay, so you pretty much know all the characters in there?
I do know all the players.
Now, the story goes, the popular story is that, the Hells Angels ruined the 60s. That everything was going great. Woodstock was wonderful. And then they were putting on this concert in Altamont, and the Hells Angels ruined everything and ended the 60s on a bad note. Well, what's your impression?
Well, I find that humorous because I think the 60s it was indeed an end of an era, but I don't think you can hold the Hells Angels responsible, for destroying the 60s, and I'll tell you why. Rock Scully came up with the idea to petition the club to do the security. As I stated, everybody was friends with all the bands up there. Big Brother, Janis had been going out with one of the guys in the club for a while. I'm speaking about Janis Joplin. The Grateful Dead, were friends. Personal friends. I used to pick Jerry Garcia up at the airport when he'd fly into Los Angeles. They would call me, and I'd go down and get him. So we had a close relationship with him. So it was just kind of a natural suggestion to have people in the club do the security. Now, what happened is there was a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs going on, and people started pushing on the motorcycles, and that started making a lot of the members angry and aggressive. They were trying to keep people back from the stage. Now, independently, you've got Meredith Hunter, who has some sort of axe to grind with Mick Jagger because his girlfriend thinks Mick Jagger is cute. And that's, I've heard a lot of different scenarios. This is the one that makes the most sense. But, during the performance, when Stones were playing, Meredith Hunter pulls out a gun and shoots the stage. Alan Pizarro reacts, winds up stabbing him, and Meredith, succumbs to the stab wound. I believe shortly after it happened. Right there, they never even got him out of there to the hospital. I don't know.
Yeah, I was watching the movie this morning to prepare for this, and yeah, he was when he was declared dead on the scene. You know, he wasn't even flown away, medevaced out of there in the helicopter. He was dead before he was on the helicopter. And now the whole story about Meredith. Now, were you involved in that whole Meredith Hunter, the guy who was killed? Were you aware of what was going on in the litigation and the trial? Did you know the guy Pissarro?
I know Alan Pissarro, and Alan ultimately got acquitted. There's a lot of different rumors as why. You know, I heard it was justifiable homicide. I also, they said the knife wound was at a different angle from what they could see on the camera. But ultimately, he was acquitted. And there's a beef that developed between the Hells Angels and the Rolling Stones after the concert, and that was directly to do with them not wanting to pay the legal fees for Alan Pizarro. And the Hells Angels thought that they should pay the legal fees because they committed to doing that. If anybody got in trouble, they'd take care of it. And when it came time to cough up the $50,000 for the attorney's fees, they didn't want to pay it. And that started a long time, I don't know if you want to call it a feud, but certainly a disagreement with the Rolling Stones and, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you that would be the right thing to do. If one of your guys gets in a beef, defending you, protecting you, doing your security, you should take care of their legal fees. And
the ridiculous thing about it is $50,000 to the Rolling Stones. Come on, they probably spend that much money partying on a weekend, and I just think that they thought it was a matter of principle. They didn't want to be connected to the Hells Angels in that way, and it created a lot of dissension between them and us, and we ultimately got the money from them. They did pay the $50,000, but it wasn't until almost 10 years, or may have been 10 years later. They paid a check to Sandy Alexander for $50,000. But I think this is after, there were rumors about a group of individuals who went to pay Mick a visit on his yacht. And I don't know if you're aware of that story or not.
Yeah, I have heard of that story. Now, wasn't that off the shore of the Hamptons?
Correct. Yeah, he was in a yacht spending the weekend, and some individuals took it upon themselves to send a message to him. What happened was the boat was swamped and the raft was swamped, and the C4, whatever they were going to use to send that message, went down with the ship. They made their way back. But what happened was one of the guys wound up flipping, and he testified before a grand jury committee of United States senators, and he told them about this. Somehow it got back to the Rolling Stones management and the Rolling Stones, and a check was sent to settle the debt.
It's interesting that the Stones didn't want to pay you guys because they didn't even want to pay Meredith Hunter's mother. She sued them for $100,000, and they settled for $10,000.
Now, you're telling me something now that I didn't know about and I wasn't aware of. There was a lot of things going on up there that weekend.
Yeah.
Not only did Meredith Hunter lose his life, and it created a rift between the Hells Angels and the Rolling Stones, but it ended a long-time relationship with the Jefferson Airplane. And Marty Ballin got really upset because of some of the violence that was transpiring, and he got in Animal's face, and Animal wound up knocking him out. And that was the end of our relationship with the Jefferson Airplane. And, we tried to reconstruct it a couple of times over the years, and they didn't want anything to do with us. They made it clear that they were satisfied with how things were, and they didn't want to reinstate any type of relationship with us. I guess Animal and Marty were friends. Animal said he tried to talk to Marty to tell him to calm down, and Marty started swearing at him. And Animal even gave him the opportunity to apologize. He said, "Marty, don't talk to me like that. Just because we're friends, that's not going to cut it." And Marty continued with his obscenities to him, so Animal knocked him out. And you could hear Grace Slick talking about it over the loudspeaker. Well, he thanked the Hells Angels that just knocked out our singer, Mark Fallon. And so there was a lot of things transpiring that weekend. I think it was set up terribly. The artists were having trouble getting in and getting out. And, I was also told that there was a rift between the Rolling Stones and the Jefferson Airplane. The Jefferson Airplane had actually out-informed them the last time they played together, and they wanted a large envelope of time. The Stones did, between themselves and the Jefferson Airplane, because of the performance. They didn't want to be compared, or they didn't want the Jefferson Airplane to outshine them.
I was just watching an interview with Grace Slick this morning, and she describes how they went on the stage at 9 p.m. the night before and stayed on the stage all night long because there was no path to get back and forth to the stage from the entranceway. So they were on the stage all night long, awake.
It was really set up poorly. The people, I talked to Rock Scully, who him and I became good friends along with the rest of the Grateful Dead family. And, Rock Scully told me it was just a mess. It wasn't planned properly. There was a lot of egos getting involved. You had Melvin Belli, the attorney, got involved, and it just wasn't set up in the proper way. And I don't think they ever imagined all these people would show up out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you've ever been on the Altamont Pass, but it's cold. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's not the most comfortable place to be in the middle of winter.
No, I haven't. But I have been to a lot of these kind of events. I was with the Yippies back in New York back in the 70s and the 80s. So I've been to a lot of these big, protests and concerts and be-ins and smoke-ins and stuff. And I know the kind of people that are there. They do tend to you attract some pretty out there people. Now, but it seemed like at this event, one of the main problems was methamphetamine. You think that was the ingredient that really turned things over the top?
Well, let me tell you something. And I stated this on the History Channel. When methamphetamine first came on the scene, I thought this is the outlaw biker's dream drug. Because, you could take a snort of crank, jump on your motorcycle, ride 300-400 miles, party all night, snort another line and ride all the way home and never miss a beat. But it turned out, it made this transition, and it just started changing people's personalities. The emotional highs and lows that it created are just tremendous, and it turned out to be one of the worst things I've ever encountered. I just watched it destroy really strong-willed, strong-minded men. Not only became dependent on the drug, but basically lost their minds. I mean, they became paranoid. Everybody, everything was a conspiracy. Behind every shadow was somebody waiting for them. It just a really, really bad drug.
Yes, so true. You hear these stories of people that they think that the FBI is digging tunnels under their house, and they start digging through the floors to find the tunnels.
I talk about, on the show, I talk about the situation in Steamboat Springs where, one Hells Angel shot two other Hells Angels, and it was all about misunderstandings and playing too hard in that fast lane. And that's, in the motorcycle culture, that's what we call people on crank. We call it the fast lane. And these guys are getting the fast lane, and they don't want to get out of it. And, they go for 4, 5, 6 day runs. And, at the end of 6 days, you're not thinking properly, and, the situation like in Steamboat Springs was, he thought these guys were conspiring to kill him, and, he pulled his gun out, started shooting. He wound up misinterpreting everything that was transpiring around him, and he shot 2 Hells Angels. Luckily, nobody died, but, they were wounded severely. So, what was going on at Altamont, the same type of situation. You've got people taking crank, drinking. I heard there was bad LSD up there. Whether that's or not, I don't know. But it turned into a fiasco.
Now, what about you in your life? Did you ever get into a bout with methamphetamine that turned out bad?
No, that wasn't my drug of choice. I liked cocaine much better than methamphetamine. And, I was a recreational drug user. I had the luxury of being able to walk away from it. But I watched it destroy a lot of people's lives. And, not just methamphetamine, cocaine, alcohol, prescription drugs. We have a strict rule about heroin in the Hells Angels, and but I watched heroin destroy a lot of people. So, like I said, I was a recreational drug user, but methamphetamine was never my favorite drug. It was just, I felt it was too powerful, and cocaine is certainly seductive, but methamphetamine is seductive in a different way. You can't describe it. I've watched people get out in the middle of the desert, riding across country with people that you've had long-term relationships with, and people that should trust you, and then all of a sudden they think, that you're plotting to do something to harm them somehow. So I used to really frown on the guys that continued the methamphetamine use. And, we would reach a point in time where if somebody was getting out of control, we would 86 and you can't do that anymore. And, that's one of the things Hells Angels don't like to be told what to do. So it created a power struggle of wills, if nothing else, just, telling people, hey, man, you're out of control. Because people on that drug don't see themselves out of control. They think that everything is in order, and they think that they can, navigate their way through anything. And it's a farce. I mean, they're just repeating themselves, walking in circles, making no sense. So no, it's a bad drug, and I would suggest anybody that gets around it, run the other way, because you can't overcome it if you just happen to be one of these people that biologically become addicted. I've seen a lot of people walk away from it, but I've seen a lot of people do it one time, and that's it. It changes their whole lives. And I've watched young guys in the club take one snort of crank, and 4 years later, they're getting kicked out of the club. They're losing their motorcycle, tattoos covered, and they're a complete mess.
No, I hear you. And myself back in the 80s, I was bad enough on coke that I know if I would have, as soon as I saw meth, I knew, I couldn't go near it. I'd still be there in that same room right now doing it, or dead. So I hear you. It's definitely way, way, way over the top. And I definitely would agree with you to advise people to stay away from it.
Yeah, and back in when it first came out, the guys that were cooking the drugs, had the best formulas. They were getting these formulas from actual chemists, and they were using P2P. Which is like a 2-stage cooking process. I don't really know how they did it because I've never cooked any drugs, but, you just do like the end, just a match head off a knife. And you could be awake 2 or 3 days. It was incredible.
Right, and I guess nowadays, because so many of these chemicals aren't available anymore, and they're using Drano and all kinds of crazy stuff, that it's just, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, they've got these recipes that, not that it was ever a good drug for you, but, the things they're making it with now. Back in the end of the 80s, the people that were cooking drugs, pretty much everybody got put out of business, and they were getting 40-year sentences. So, people that didn't know how to make the drugs became very concerned about, their freedom. A lot of people got out of the business. So who takes over the business? The Mexican nationals. We were even approached. Me personally was approached by people. They were looking for outlets, and I'd heard stories about the drug cartels. I didn't want anything to do with them. And when I was approached by these guys, I said thank you, but no thank you. And you can see how brutal the business has gotten. I mean, it didn't start out that way. It was just some guys who knew how to cook drugs, and it was kind of a frolic and a fun thing. And by God, you can make a lot of money doing it as well. But it's a huge business now, and you see what these cartels are doing to each other down there in Mexico, just to control, what is brought into the United States.
Yeah, and then you hear these stories from guys like Freeway Ricky Ross, who talk about how much of it was controlled by CIA. Now, did you ever run into anything like that?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. In the late 70s, early 80s, I had heard that the CIA was doing business, and then the war on drugs was going to start, and the people that we knew in the business, and I'm talking about people that work for the company, the CIA, told us, get it out of the drug business because the next big thing is going to be the war on drugs. And, but Freeway Ricky Ross, man, I mean, God only knows how much money he made. I mean, they were just dumping drugs on him. And, that's all true. And, there's a lot of people that say, oh, that's, it's embellishing and it's not true. But it is true. The government was involved in the drug business. Same thing when I was in Terminal Island prison, 86 and 87, and there was a Iranian guy in there that was in there for selling missiles and weapons and whatnot. And, he's talking about Oliver North, who I didn't at the time have any idea who he was, General Poindexter, and he actually got up on the witness stand in his own defense and mentioned Reagan's name, and the judge told him that if he talked about the United States president like that one more time, he was going to sanction him. So it was just wild times. They were trying to fund that Contra war, and they were robbing Peter to pay Paul, I guess, in a sense. But there's a lot of things that go on like that back then, and I think there's a lot of things that go on today that we probably won't discover or know about till decades from now.
George, on my show, and the people that listen to my show, we've had like a Gene Chip Tatum, who was one of the smugglers in Iran-Contra, and he was actually arrested and convicted, and he was given a pardon by George Bush. We've had him on the show, and our show plays on his radio station. So the audience is very familiar with that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Now, let me ask you a question. How does my audio sound to you right now? Can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you echoing just a little bit.
Yeah, you're not sounding that good either. I'm going to try another to disconnect and reconnect with you while we're playing this commercial. And we'll be right back after this with more of George Christie. George Christie is a former president of the Hells Angels Ventura chapter, for many, many years. He's a very savvy guy. He runs a business called Felony Prison Consultants. You go to felonyprisonconsultants.com, and you can just hear this guy talk just now. This guy's been around. If you're in the jackpot, you're in trouble, This is the kind of guy you want to talk to get advice. Trust me. I've been around a long time myself, and I would go to George Christie for advice. You can also catch his show on The Outlaw Chronicles, Hell's Angels, on the History Channel. We'll be right back with more of George Christie after these messages. And now, a word from our sponsors. Pacific West Bamboo, your premier source for sustainable building material. They provide construction-grade and craft-grade bamboo material for all your indoor, outdoor, and gardening needs. Contact them for event planning and display building as well. 503-839-8126. Or you go to their new website, pacificwestbamboo.com. Or you can contact them on Facebook at Pacific West Bamboo. That's 503-839-8126. Amanda from Pacific West Bamboo was our first sponsor. She's been so good to us, so please support her in return. I want to make everybody aware of our new members section at www.oppermanreport.com. You can go there and sign up for a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You can even purchase episodes one by one. You get full access to brand new original content, new guests, new uncensored interviews, my own investigations and reports, and we're going to be adding sections with documents, images, police reports, either provided by myself or by my guests, or for my own investigations, my own reports. So you can go to oppermanreport.com and you can sign up there tonight. You can start listening tonight. Strawman. I want to mention Strawman. Strawman is a band out of Toronto, Canada. They're good friends of the Opperman Report. They're a trio of guys who share the same mindset most of us here do, and they put that energy into their words and music. So check them out at strawmanmusic.com and drop them a line to let them know that you heard them here on the Opperman Report. We'll be doing an interview with Sean Duffy soon. You can get an autographed copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, by visiting my PI website, emailrevealer.com. We also offer a computer and cell phone forensics. We can recover deleted text messages to uncover infidelity. We offer asset searches, locates, email tracing, background reports, and we can even trace your spouse's email address back to internet dating websites to catch them cheating online. You can reach us at 800-572-9762, or you can email me at emailrevealer@aol.com. New World Mexican Women. Everyone loves the New World Mexican Women, and their line of fine, handcrafted, authentic Mexican jewelry of stone mosaic and abalone stone inlay. In their first book, titled New World Mexican Women, available on lulu.com, they teach you how to make this jewelry, and they have a collection of love letters to their men from their hometown that have immigrated to the United States to find work. They have also published a new book entitled Azuquina to the Rodeo. It's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider, and she runs away with him without telling her family. You can find the New World Mexican Women by Googling New World Mexican Women. And you can ask them about their deals on wholesaling their fine jewelry and all of the other projects that they have going on. If you'd like to have your business or website advertised here and promoted all over the world on dozens of stations every day, give us a call at 800-572-9762 or email oppermanreport@gmail.com. And now back to our show. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and we're interviewing today George Christie, who is the former president of the Hells Angels Ventura County chapter. He's also has a website, Felony. Hey, George, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay, hopefully this is a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, it started off good last time too, and then it gradually diminished.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know, maybe I need faster internet or whatever. I don't know, maybe. But now, okay, now you mentioned...
Maybe somebody's watching you.
Well, listen, I'm actually doing a show. One of my former guests just met with Edward Snowden the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got a lot of stuff going on here, man. Okay. You'd fit right in. Okay, let's put it that way.
Okay, I feel comfortable.
Me too, man. That's the sad part. Now, listen. Okay. You mentioned how, you were approached by the Mexican cartels.
Right.
What year was that?
Let's say the late 80s, early 90s.
That was sort of like the new Mexican cartel, because originally the Mexican cartel was kind of running things in Mexico, but then around the early 80s, the Colombians came in there and took everything over.
Right. I was in Terminal Island with a Colombian cartel.
Okay.
I lived with them for 1 year when I was fighting a murder that never happened, and I ultimately beat it. But it cost me a year in Terminal Island down there in San Pedro, and I lived with the Colombians. And one of the interesting things, you had the head of the cartel was in there, and then his brother, and I don't remember their names. And then you had all the guys that were working and smuggling. And these guys were going and getting sentenced and coming back with like 25-year sentences. And these guys were in shock because in Colombia it wasn't that big a deal. And they were just like, caught in the United States. And I watched that whole year. Everybody got found guilty in that cartel but the pilot. It was a pilot. And what he had done was he had a flight plan into Colombia, but he had no flight plan back from Colombia because he was using the same flight plan. And that was his defense, that he went to Colombia and never came back with any narcotics. And he actually beat the case. He was the only guy that out of that whole cartel that beat the case. So I developed a relationship with these guys, and I think my name got out there because I was approached. I was approached by a marijuana smuggler from England who these guys just come in cold off the streets. And after I'd been set up by the feds in 86 and 87, I mean, it really makes you gun shy. I had all these opportunities, and, not because I was so much walking the straight and narrow. I was trying to stay out of prison and not get myself in the jackpot. So, I would be very cautious. And I think my name got out there in the underworld somehow that, I could be approached or talked to or trusted. And so I had these different avenues of different people coming to me, smugglers like the guys from Mexico. But I had so much heat on me in the late 80s and early 90s that there was no way I was getting involved in it.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, you hear these stories, especially on the East Coast. I'm from New York, about how John Gotti and the Gambinos would use the Westies, Irish gang, to help to help them out.
I'm laughing because I was in New York, and one of our guys was going on trial back there, and the Westies were on trial back there. So every day, and I don't know if I told you this last time we spoke on your program, but every day we would eat lunch in the cafeteria, getting ready to go back for the afternoon calendar, and we were in there with the Westies, and I'll tell you, they look like a tough crew of guys.
Did you ever have that situation, though, in Ventura, where organized crime guys would come to you and need your help?
Well, when I was in Terminal Island, I met a lot of traditional organized crime guys, and I was in there with Salvador Gambino, who was doing 41 years, and Michael Francesi.
Okay.
Was in there at that time. He had just done that big gas thing. So, I developed a relationship with these guys, and when I would go to New York, I would go visit them at some of the social clubs and whatnot. So that brought additional heat on me. But I did know a lot of the traditional mob guys from New York.
Now, Michael Francesi, that's very interesting because now there was a couple of Francesi sons, and my sister went to one of their weddings because we're from Staten Island. Now, is this the one that testified against his own father?
Well, I never got a straight answer if Michael had testified against anybody or not. Now, I know he walked away from, he was a made guy, and he was a captain, I believe, and he walked away from that life. He just said, I don't want to do this anymore. But his dad, I think, is still in prison. He's like an old-school, old-time gangster that had a reputation, one of the most fierce reputations, and I think they were from the Colombo family, maybe. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
but,
and one
Michael,
of those franchisee sons too was involved with Michael Jackson, the Michael Jackson tour, and also with Al Sharpton.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Michael is, you see him on the History Channel from time to time.
Yeah.
And he does talks now on gambling and sports gambling for colleges. And I think he was in the movie production business for a while. He was producing movies. So I don't know which franchisee Michael franchisee is the one that I was in Terminal Island with.
Yeah, I believe he's the one then that was hooked up with Al Sharpton, who you know, is widely known now, was an FBI asset.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, and I've never read any of the paperwork, but I certainly have heard all the accusations. And you know what's interesting is Michael's really a brilliant guy. I mean, he came up with this idea, and I think he stole like $10 million in gas tax money.
Yeah.
He kept moving the gas stations around. They couldn't keep up with him. But, he came up with that idea. And, a lot of these guys are really, really enterprising, and they're really smart. And, they just happen to choose a particular path in life. But, maybe if circumstances had been different, he could be running a major company or something.
Yeah, so true. You got to look up the info on Al Sharpton, though. It's all available on the smokinggun.com. Although he had a phone in his house, a red phone that went straight to the FBI. Every call he made on that phone, they were listening on the calls. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
And he was getting paid by them.
Yeah, he was making cases for them. He was pivotal in making cases. He was working undercover for them every day.
Wow.
Day in, day out. Well, all that stuff was going on. Tawana Brawley, all that stuff. He was working for the FBI.
That's just amazing. It's interesting. When I got arrested in 2011, and it's really funny because they put me in solitary confinement. They always lock me down anytime I get arrested, and I always petition them to put me in general population. And sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. But the last time I was in, I was complaining to the lieutenant, I want to go to general population, and he was kind of teasing me, but there was a message behind it. Whitey Bulger, they had arrested Whitey Bulger in Santa Monica, and he was in the cell next to me. But when I got there, he had just left. So I never did cross paths with him. But I kind of got a kick out of his trial because people were calling him, he was an FBI asset.
Yeah.
But I found it kind of interesting because he was paying the FBI. So it's like, who was working for who? It's kind of a interesting situation.
No, but they never came. When you were with the Hells Angels, or even during any of your cases, they never came to you and offered you a deal. Said, "Hey, we want you to come work for us."
Yeah. The last time they offered me a deal in '86 and '87, I had no interest in it. And this last time, they offered me a deal as well. And you can see who went to jail. I did.
Yeah.
There was everybody got indicted. There was 6 of us got indicted for the firebombs at the tattoo shops, and out of all those people, I'm the only one who went to prison. But they're you always hear these allegations about people. That's why I made that comment about Sharpton. But it sounds to me like you've seen the paperwork and it's confirmed it. He was an informant, or was an informant, and now he's got a television show. Or does he still have it?
Well, he lost the show, but he doesn't. He owes $4 million in taxes. He doesn't have to pay his taxes. He's got all these cases going on. He's got a pipeline to Eric Holder in the DOJ. And then he goes down to these protests and he's telling them, "Oh, we need to bring the feds in here. We need to bring the feds in here." Well, no kidding. He's a fed, you know?
Well, he wants to get paid.
Yeah. It's amazing. But now let me ask you a question. Now, you're still on parole?
I'm on federal. Well, they don't call it parole anymore. They call it probation. They've eliminated parole, but it's federal probation. Everybody goes on probation that gets out. They don't have parole anymore, but it's the same damn thing.
Okay, for how many years you got left?
I got 2 years left.
Now, I just read on your Facebook page that they made a conditioning of parole, probation, that you're not allowed to use the photographs of you carrying the torch in the Olympics?
Well, no, what they're saying is I had a visit from the probation department a week and a half ago, a couple of days after I posted that. And they told me, they went on my website and they saw that Dave Mann, the famous biker artist, had done a poster of me back in 1986 of me carrying the torch in the 1984 Olympics. And on the bottom, it says Hells Angels Motorcycle Club Ventura. Because it says Hells Angels, and I have a term on my probation that I cannot display any club indicia. Okay. Since that website had my name on it, they made me. What they told me to do was take the poster down. And what I decided to do, I talked to my lawyer about it, who's also my oldest daughter, and she said, "Well, if you cover the indicia, they can't make you take it down. What they're opposed to is any Hells Angel related stuff like." And I've got some heat discussions with them because I have tattoos on me, and I said, "Well, what about the tattoos?" I said, "You people are ridiculous," and all that seems to do is aggravate. And I don't follow my own advice that I give my clients when I talk to them about getting through probation and parole. I just can't help but heads with them. So I tell my client, just try to get along the best you can. Give them sound advice, not to rock the boat, but I just can't get that out of my system. If I'm told something and I don't agree with it, my God, I'm going to dig in and fight about it.
Well, yeah, it's easier said than done. But they're not alleging that the Olympic torch was used in these arsons that you were accused of, are they?
What's that? No, you know what they'll do? They'll confiscate it and sell it on eBay.
Oh, wait, you still have the torch?
I still have the torch.
Oh, cool. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't take it in as evidence on the arson case, yeah?
Well, don't give them any ideas.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
But give people an idea real quick to give some good advice out there to the youngsters out there listening in. When you're on this kind of felony probation in the probation department, how much control they have over your life and what they can do to you?
They have complete control over your life in a sense. You're subjected. Like there was absolutely no narcotics involved in my case. I have drug testing. Every once in a while, my number pops up. I get an automatic text to my phone that I have to come in for a drug test. And the thing is, these guys do this professionally. They do it every day. And if you think you're smarter than them, you're probably not. And what's going to happen is if you're up to something, you're going to get caught, and you're going to wind up getting violated, and you're going to go back. And if you find yourself in a situation like that, you need to read your terms very carefully, understand your terms, and adhere to your terms. And, I tell a lot of people that, especially over the years, I'd see the young guys in the club, and I'd see them getting involved in different nefarious things, and I'd give them my own personal fatherly advice. By that little blast of money you make initially, you wind up, if you get busted with your bail, your legal fee, the time you spend in jail, it's just not worth it. You're better off going and getting a job where you can lay down at night, go to sleep, and not worry if you hear a bang in the middle of the night that it's the FBI getting ready to knock your door down. I deal with people all the time that, and I may have mentioned this to you last time, I get these clients that call me and they don't understand why all of a sudden they're being treated like a criminal. Well, they just embezzled $150,000 from a business, and they're treating you like a criminal because you conducted yourself like a criminal. If you're going to get yourself involved in criminal activity, you're going to probably wind up going down. These guys usually catch you, and if they don't catch you, somebody puts them onto you, because everybody is looking for a way out. And that seems to be the way the whole judicial process is heading. In the old days, people kept their mouths shut, went and did their time. But now, you got guys looking at 30, 40 years, and it doesn't look too attractive, and, the cops say, hey, give me something. And, 9 times out of 10, they do. It's a whole different world than the old days.
I totally agree with you with that. And then you find out that the people you thought you could trust, like Whitey Bulger or Sharpton or some, or even some of these guys in New York City, who big names that and then you hear that they're going for these rides with the FBI and they're driving around in the car and they're all gossiping and swapping information back and forth, just like and they get a free ride,
Right.
Yeah. So
I know. I got indicted in 2011. I was on house arrest a year. I was on house arrest almost, I don't know. I got indicted in 2011, got out on house arrest, couldn't leave the house, and then 2013 I wound up going to prison in Texas, so I was on house arrest that whole time. But I went the whole year fighting the case. In December of 2011, we went back into court, and because I wouldn't cooperate, they came with a superseding indictment and added 3 additional charges with a mandatory minimum of a life sentence. So, if you don't play ball with these guys, they punish you for not becoming an informant. So they make it very difficult for the average guy that doesn't understand the system or doesn't have the street sense or street values to not, be a stand-up guy. They usually wind up giving information or flipping on their partners or whatever. So it's a whole different world out there. It's a different ballgame. In the old days, people just didn't roll. It was unheard of.
And also, too, these probation violations that most people, like the odds of staying out, is so slim. And they get you on these crazy little things, like you lie to the bail bondsman, you lie on a mortgage application, these little forgery crimes that they hit you with that no one can avoid. Everyone's doing that kind of stuff, but
No, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you, in 2001, they had a 5-year investigation. It started. I got indicted in 2001. I had a 59-count state racketeering charge, and the investigation started in I think '96. And then it came, I had beat 2 grand juries, and on the 3rd grand jury, they came back with a true bill, and I wound up getting arrested. But they went after my oldest daughter, who was also one of my attorneys, because she checked a wrong box in a loan application. That's how close and how, just petty these guys can get. And she beat the case. They dismissed it because the bank official told her to mark the box when she was filling out the loan application. But they went to that extent that she was part of my family to get her. You're absolutely right. You just said, you meant, marking the wrong box in an application.
When meanwhile,
into a felony.
Any successful accountant, any successful mortgage broker, they're doing that every single day, day in, day out. That's how they make their full-time living. But you got a guy, who's a target, and they're going to jump all over you for it.
If you become a target, you're going to get indicted. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to go down, but you probably, in all likelihood, if they choose to target you, in all likelihood, you will get indicted at some point in time. And you know what? You don't want to become a target. I got a client I'm working with right now that came up with an idea, and the feds are all over him. He just bailed out last week, and he's not even found guilty yet. They froze all of his bank accounts. They've taken his money. They confiscated his cars that were leased for his business. I mean, they're destroying his whole world. And, this is a young guy. He's got 4 kids. He's got a young wife. And, his whole world is upside down now. And because, maybe he made somebody mad or, it remains to be seen. I mean, he hasn't been found guilty of anything, but they've already started the process on him. Got a $500,000 bail. He's got a monitor bracelet on now so they can monitor everywhere he goes. And, his life is chaos right now.
I hear you, man. Well, we're down to like the last 5 minutes. First, I want to ask you real quick about your daughter. What kind of law does she practice in? She
practices criminal law. She's a criminal lawyer here in Ventura County. She also practices in federal law. She, defended me along with Michael Mayock in my last case. And, she's been a lawyer, close to 20 years now. She's very good, and she got a great reputation. And what's interesting is the judges have reached a point in time when they know she's a straight shooter. She comes to court prepared. She doesn't let her clients pull any shenanigans in court. She runs a real tight ship, and she's really gained the respect of the judges. And initially, they were making her suffer for my sins, if you will.
Yeah.
But really carved her own reputation out, has become her own person.
Well, we're down to the last 3 minutes here. People, and I think I closed up the page. George Christie's on the History Channel. And what was that website again? Felony Crime Consultants?
Felony Prison Consultants. And, it's interesting. The Outlaw Chronicles is just getting ready to premiere in England, and then it's going to go across Europe. It's going to be in Israel, Germany, the Scandinavian countries. It's become very, very popular. And, I think the last show that showed here was 2 million viewers, which is pretty damn good for cable.
No, that's excellent, yeah. So what do you have planned after this? What's coming up?
Say that again?
What do you have planned next? What's coming up?
Well, I'm almost done with my book, my memoirs. That'll be out next year. I'm right in the process of editing, and Thomas Dunn is the publisher that picked it up. So that'll be coming out next year. I'm planning on going on a book tour. And, there seems to be a lot of interest in the show, and, you never know. We may come up with the second season. I've got a lot more stories to tell. I'd like to tell the story of the birth of the 1% motorcycle culture here in Southern California. It's a really interesting story. Has to do with even the Manson family is involved in it, which I don't know if you know anything about that. But,
yeah, dude, we talk about it all the time. Yeah, we get into Manson family stuff all the time.
Yeah, well, the Straight Satans were involved with them in a big drug deal, and the president of the Straight Satans, Danny DeMarco, is who put the cops on to the Manson family for those murders, and that caused a big rift in the outlaw bike world at that particular point in time. But that's a whole different subject, and it's very entailed. But
okay,
that's
great.
what I'd like to do.
Yeah, no, great. We got to have you come back and talk about that. Yeah, my audience would love that. They're definitely into all that Charles Manson stuff and the Process Church and all that kind of stuff. Everything. George Christie, thank you so much, brother. Okay.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's nice talking to you. But if you ever come to Vegas, look me up. We'll get in some trouble.
Okay, well, I'll do that. We'll just make sure we got a bondsman standing by.
I'll get one. No worry. Thank you, George Christie, man. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye. Oh, boy, I like this guy, George Christie, former president of Hells Angels. FelonyPrisonConsultants.com is his website. If you get in trouble, give him a call. He's definitely a cool guy for that kind of thing. We'll be back, Friday night. We're working on that show with Bill Cosby about the Bill Cosby. My guest is alleging that he actually ordered that hit on his son. Then we have that show coming about Edward Snowden. We have Betty Metzger coming back. And then we're doing a show about the Falcon and the Snowman. So, guys, talk to you soon. Thank you so much, George Christie, former president, Hells Angels, Ventura County, and your inside information on the Altamont Rolling Stones concert. Good night.